Hello, I'm going to be giving you our Felt's house tour today. So just to start off with, the Felt house was built over 2 centuries ago, 200 years ago. It was built in 1810 or 1815. We're not exactly sure what the exact date was, but it's said to be built in that time. The Felt house was built in Logan County, Kentucky. So as you can see, we are in Bowling Green, so it was later moved here. Over the course of time, over 150 members of the Felt's family have lived in this house, usually with about 15 to 20 people living in the house at one time, so it can get a little crazy in there. The house we bought in 1980 from the last living member of the Felt's family, Ollie Felt's. She sold the house to Western, and we transported it here to Bowling Green on the back of a truck bed with the roof off, and the foundation was later made anew. And so we're incredibly lucky to have it here on our campus and have this piece of history here. The house itself is made out of poplar, walnut, and oak tree, so variety of trees going on here. And it's a really cool thing that we get to have here in the Kentucky Museum, I guess. So yeah. Okay, if you just want to follow me, we'll head on inside. Okay, so this is the kitchen of the Felt's house, and as they refer to it, this was the hearth of the home, mostly because it had the fire in it. This is one of the most notable pieces of the kitchen, was the fireplace, just because this was where the family would gather around to not only cook meals as well as stay warm by the fire, but it was also just a source of well-being and family being together. Everything that you see in here is a historical, accurate reproduction of what would have been in here at the time when the family originally lived in here. We do our best to make it look as accurate as possible, so it's really nice to have such good image quality and everything that we have here. Another good thing to point out about this was the different types of things they used to cook. So we had a Dutch oven, as well as our skillets, and our cast iron skillets, and just a couple of these different instruments up here. This is a common frequent question. Not exactly sure what this one is, but we like to, I and other tour guides like to think of it as like a fire stoker, I think, to like move the logs around, but not exactly sure. So if you get that question, just use your best judgment. But another great part of the kitchen that we like to discuss is the bed. This is a great point to ask kids on tour groups, as well as just tours in general, what's interesting about the kitchen, and that's going to be the bed. It's interesting just because I know I don't have a bed in my kitchen, so the reason that there's a bed in the kitchen was because, as I said earlier, over 15 to 20 people could be living in this house at one time, so you really had to accommodate for everyone, and that meant having a kitchen or a bed in the kitchen. And as you can see, it could fit a couple people, as well as we had a baby cradle. So this is where I'd like to refer to as maybe like the moms would sleep with their children. It's small children would sleep here normally. And so it's a very, as you can see, a room that was used to its full purpose. So yeah, and then we'll go on in here. So this is our next section. This is the dog trot, or the breezeway, as sometimes referred to. Now, the house itself is in the dog trot form, and it gets that name from this section of the house. So basically, as you can see, there are 4 big doors, well, 2 main doors, but like they open up into 4 sections. And the family back in the day would open up these doors and allow for the wind and the air to breeze through this center. And what that did was it not only created a cooling effect for the family in the hot summertime, but it also was named Dog Trot because it's where the dogs would come and hang out and cool off. It's a place of both work and entertainment, porch entertainment as they would refer to it. This is kind of where they would center around for family gatherings, as well as just music and entertaining each other. So it was a great spot for the family to eat. So now we are in the best room of the house, and that's what it was referred to as, because this is furniture-wise and decorations and what they had in this room was the best of the house. This is where they put forth their best furniture, their best dishes, the best look of the house overall, because this is where the family would entertain their guests as well as have guests stay. It's also could be referred to as a master bedroom of sorts. This is where the matriarch and patriarch of the family would sleep, as well as entertain guests, as I said. So as you can see, some of the things to point out is that we have our really nice dishes in here, so fine china to show off what the family would have to people that would come and stay with them. And it just goes to show that this family wanted to put forth their best foot forward whenever they would have people coming over. So this was the room to do that in. And up here, we're not going to go up here, but we're going to go on the other side actually. But this is where the girls' room would lead up these stairs to. And so the boys' room on the opposite side, which we will be going up to, is the exact same replica of what it would look like up there. So yeah. Okay. This is the boys' room of the Faught house. It's on the second floor, and as you can see if you look around, there are 3 different types of beds that we would see in this room. So all the men would sleep here unless they were married. So this is where you'd have the young boys, as well as the teenagers, and some of the young adults if they weren't married. So the 3 different beds that you see, we have our pallet, which is on the floor. We have the tall bed, that's like a normal bed frame, as well as the trundle bed. And with that, the pallet was probably one of the most easily accommodating just because you could place it anywhere, whereas the trundle could slide under the taller bed, that way to create more space in here if necessary. But the pallet was good if you needed to have extra people come and sleep up here, that kind of thing. So each of these different bed types would serve its purpose when needed. As you can see, there are a couple trunks that are around here. So with these trunks, this is where the family would keep their belongings. Now they didn't have much. You were limited to what you had, but it was definitely where they would keep their keepsakes and what they loved in these trunks and toys, that kind of thing. As well as the fire is a good thing to point out because once again, just like in the kitchen, the fire was source of warmth for them as well as a place to gather around. So they definitely use that to its most purpose. And the girls' room on the opposite side of the house is exactly like this. So not missing anything by not going over there. But something that we like to point out is you can peek under here and see kind of this little loft attic area in which they would keep space. It's not necessarily a room they would use for living, but it was where they would keep their extra belongings and everything. So yeah, and that's the boys' room. So usually throughout the tour I like to just add a couple of extra questions in or stuff that people generally ask. So the first one is going to be, where's the bathroom in the house? Kids usually ask this on field trips. At that time there was never a bathroom in the house, so the answer is that it would have been built separately from the house as an outhouse, or people would go in the woods. So I always like to make sure I answer that because that is a prevalent question. We also get a question a lot of what is this hole over top of the hearth, and it's from a later owner of the Faught's family, and it said used either for burning coal or storing wood, so that's what that was used for, and kids ask that a lot. Also, I like to point out what is new in the house, what we have restored, apart from all the props that we've put in here to make it look historically accurate. We've replaced all the windows as well as the foundation to give it a wood look, and then we also have put in motion detectors and fire alarms and different alarm systems. So those wouldn't have been in the house at that time, of course, because no electricity. So kids will ask, or they'll point out and try to stump you. So I like to just go ahead and get that out of the way. And as I mentioned before, Ollie Phelps was the last living descendant of the family, or the last one to own the house and sell it to us. So I always like to make sure I mention her name, just because that gives people familiarity, since it wasn't too long ago that we bought this house and moved it to Western. So yeah, but basically just answer questions as best as you can, and it's pretty simple. You have good materials to guide you through your tour. So.